humans, welcome to another episode of the A Well Cared For Human podcast. I'm your host, Kory, and this week we're going to look at getting outside of our comfort zone. But there's a specific angle that I want to tackle this topic because I feel that there's a lot of people who are telling you, get out of your comfort zone, push yourself, stretch yourself, try new things, grow. And they give you all of the reasons why it's really powerful for you to do that. But what they don't always talk about is how to manage your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, the experience that you're having to help you move into the not comfort zone. It's really challenging to go from a place where we feel safe or we feel comfortable into those more challenging spots. And I don't think we always talk about how to do that, how to manage those big feelings that come up when we're doing it. In addition to focusing on that aspect rather than why you should do it, but how to do it, I also want to tie it to a well cared for human. So if you've read the book, if you've already have your copy and you've gone through A Well Cared For Human, or even if you've listened to the earlier episodes of this podcast that talk about the 4 pillars and how they fit into building a relationship with yourself, then you know that the 4 pillars are essential to any kind of aspect of growth or self-empowerment. And so I also want to tie the 4 pillars into this process of stepping outside of your comfort zone and finding more confidence, more power, more connection to your purpose or drive or whatever it is that you're striving to do. So today I'm going to give you 5 tips for how to get out of your comfort zone and to work with whatever's coming up for you when you get into that challenging space. So tip number 1 is tied to your relationship with your body. So that's our first pillar. And for those of you who have never heard about the 4-pillar method before, if you haven't heard me talk about it in an earlier episode, or if you haven't read the book, the first pillar is your relationship with your body. That's how you think about your body, how you talk in your mind, your thoughts about your body, how you view your body. And so the way you treat your body is how you have a relationship with it. And so we look at all these different ways to improve that aspect of our relationship. Now, how does that fit into this process of getting outside your comfort zone? It's recognizing that when you are stepping outside of your comfort zone, you're going to have very real physiological responses. So fear is felt in the body. It's not just some free-floating anxiety. It can be, right? I definitely experience free-floating anxiety, but specifically in this instance, there's a reason why you get scared or there's a reason why you're uncomfortable. And so it becomes about how to manage those feelings when you're outside of your comfort zone. So improving your relationship with your body with this particular pillar in connection to this context, what can we do about it? Well, we have to look at different tools that allows us to move the fear from our body or to manage the fear that's in our body. So for example, when I go and speak, because I'm also a public speaker, I can have a very strong fear response. I am no different than other people when it comes to fear of public speaking. It's like one of the number 1 fears in the world. But I have so much drive to do it because I know that my story and my techniques will help other people. And so I get out there and do it. But that doesn't change the fact that when I go to step on the stage, I have a physiological response that is terror. And so I have to manage that. One of the very first times that I went and got on a stage, I had all of the moisture in my mouth evaporate. So that's a very common fear response, which is when you're speaking, like all the moisture leaves your mouth. And I had heard about it before, like I had read books and it had been like, scary books. And so there's a horror story and someone talks about like all the spit leaving their mouth. And I thought, oh, that's a strange way to react to being eaten by a monster. But then I went up on stage and then I couldn't form the words because my mouth was so dry. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a real thing. This is a real thing that happens when you're absolutely terrified. And it was fine. I took a drink on stage and I made a joke about it and we all laughed. And so it wasn't a big deal, truly, but that didn't change the fact that for my body, it was a really big deal. Also, when I get really nervous, I suddenly need to go to the bathroom 15 million times. And so these are real symptoms that happen that come with stepping outside of your comfort zone. And so what we don't want to do in those moments is we don't want to beat ourselves up about it. If you have to go to the bathroom a bajillion times or all the moisture leaves your mouth or you're red in the face or you're panicking or your heart's hammering, what you don't want to do is tell yourself, oh, you're you're such a scaredy cat, or oh, why are you being such a big baby, or gosh, come on, toughen up, or you don't want to speak to yourself unkindly because that violates one of the aspects of having a good relationship with your body. It's that speech with yourself, right? How you speak to yourself. So you don't want to do that. But you also want to make some kind of accommodation for what you're feeling. So if you know, for example, that in your body, you're going to be experiencing these things, wear the kind of clothes that will allow you to go to the bathroom 15 times easily. For me, if I have to go speak, I always make sure I have water. So if all the moisture leaves my mouth, I can take a drink. And I do that as a symptom or a sign of telling myself, like, you are worthy of being taken care of. Like, whatever your response is to the situation, no matter how scared you get, if you need something, I'm going to provide it for you. This is the conversation you're having with your body. You're telling your body that it's okay if you get scared. It's okay that you feel like this. I'll do whatever it takes to help take care of you in that moment. And so having that positive relationship with your body, speaking kindly to your body, making accommodations for your body, treating the fear response as natural rather than a problem. Because I think that's where we really start to do more damage than good. A lot of us are trying to get out of the comfort zone so that we can have these incredible ambitions fulfilled, so that we can move toward our dream. But it's not worth it if we're destroying our relationship with ourselves in the process. And so really, get clear on what your body needs. Like, how does your body react to being uncomfortable, to being afraid? Making sure you do whatever needs to be done in order to accommodate those fear responses. And then how you speak to yourself when you're in that situation. How do you speak to your body? Do you treat it in a way that says, I respect that this is your reaction to the situation. I'm going to do what I can to make this as easy for you as possible. We're not going to back down and quit, but I also don't want you to make the situation worse for me by treating you like a problem. And I think that alleviates a lot of the discomfort in and of itself. If you're like, this is just something that happens, this is how my body reacts, this is how I feel in this moment, I feel fearful, and this is how we're going to address it. Just treating it like something that needs to be accounted for. And there are a lot of techniques for how to move fear from the body. We've read articles or seen videos about power posing, when you put your hands up and that changes the brain waves, the sensations in the body of how you process the situation. Now you're feeling empowered. You could tell yourself, I'm excited, I'm not scared. I mean, that feels a little bit like lying to yourself. But this idea that, you're accounting for it, you're trying to move the fear from the body. I know a few people who, before they have to do something that's going to trigger that fearful response in their body, they do really hard cardio, or they do something that really exerts a lot of energy that kind of wears them down. It's a way to get rid of and manage that excess energy that's kind of flooded their system. And so you could look at really hard cardio. You could look at the contrary to that, which would be like yoga or breath work. Anything that accounts for the physical aspect of the body and moving that fear and just treating it like part of the equation. That is the first tip that I would give you about getting out of your comfort zone is your body is a part of the equation and you need to treat it accordingly. And yes, get out of your comfort zone and try new things, but not at the expense of your relationship with your body. So really think about how you're going to take good care of your body and how it responds to discomfort in those difficult times. Tip number 2, be sure to also accommodate your big feelings or your catastrophic thoughts. So for those of you, again, who are familiar with the 4-pillar method, the second pillar is your relationship with your mind and emotions. And if this is a very new idea for you, I put mind and emotions together because they influence each other so completely. So if you have a really terrifying feeling, for example, your mind will make up all these scenarios of what's possibly going to go wrong. If you're having really dark thoughts, you will start to feel really unbalanced and scared in your body, right? So mind and emotions go together for me. So how do we keep our relationship with our mind and emotions when we're outside of our comfort zone? How do we make sure that we don't hurt our relationship with ourselves when we're doing this difficult, challenging thing? Again, like the body, there's a couple of different ways to approach it. One is that you can do any kind of stillness activity. So for me, that's meditation, that's breath work, that's getting still, that's just literally sitting down wherever I am and just watching what's going on in my mind. that helps me to get acquainted with what I'm thinking and feeling about the situation. It's very possible that you have very specific ideas or judgments about this out of the comfort zone activity in which it has you feeling these kind of feelings or having these spiraling thoughts. So for example, sticking with the speaking, in my case, because speaking it's so terrifying for so many people. It's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. So let's say that you wanted to do more speaking publicly, or you needed to give a presentation at work, or you needed to confront a friend about something that they did, right? And you're trying to get out of your comfort zone, establish those boundaries, or get out there and be seen by your boss, your employer, or, get out there and promote things that you care about, to fight for causes that you care about. And as you're sitting in that moment of stillness, you can watch what you're thinking about it. Like, what is exactly the fear that's triggered for you? Are you afraid that people will laugh at you? Are you afraid that people will call you stupid, or that they're going to think you're dumb? Are you afraid of losing friends? Or are you afraid of losing your job? Like, what is it that's triggering those thoughts and feelings? And then you can go deeper with it. So it's almost an opportunity to look at what's going on with you and your thoughts and your feelings. Usually feelings are cues, they're clues also about how you're going to approach a situation, why you approach it a certain way. And so when you look at these clues, you're like, what is this telling me about myself? Like, why do I do it like this? Why do I think about it like this? And so you can really go deeper in understanding yourself and how you interact with your environment, or you interact with certain situations, which allows you to, in essence, grow outside of your comfort zone, to get stronger, to get more empowered, even in difficult situations. So the second tip, keeping your relationship with your mind and emotions intact, approach it with some friendliness. So what do you need to do in order to allow space for the scared thoughts, for the big feelings that come with being out of the comfort zone? How are you going to talk to yourself about those big thoughts or big feelings? Are you going to treat yourself like the problem? Are you going to be like, oh, don't be like that. Don't get scared. Don't catastrophize it. Don't make it a big deal. Like, calm down. Are you going to talk to yourself unkindly, or are you going to be like, well, let's get curious about this. Why do you feel that way? Why do you think that way? Is there anything that we can do to make you more comfortable, to have positive thoughts about this rather than negative thoughts? That's another thing that you could try when working with this pillar, is if your mind and your feelings tend to go in a negative direction. So if you're in the out of the box, out of the comfort zone activity, you're about to do that, speak, for example, and everything is, oh, this, and this is going to happen, this terrible thing. Ask yourself, why do I think it will be bad? Like, why do I think it will be a terrible outcome? Inject a bit of curiosity here and be like, why do I think it'll go that way? How do I know it won't be amazing? And just see if you can work with that energy that comes from the mind, from the thoughts and the feelings, and see if you can shift it in a more positive direction. It's a great opportunity to retrain yourself to not look at the negatives, to not expect the worst possible outcome, but instead to see this as a possibility. There are some people, believe it or not, I am not usually one of them, but they walk into challenging situations and they think, what amazing thing is about to happen here? We could be those people. I'm not that person yet. I am that person like 60% of the time, but the other 40, right, it could go either way. And so we can become that person where 80 or 90 or maybe even 100% of the time we walk into a challenging situation and we think, what amazing thing is going to come of this? And so it's an opportunity to retrain that. But the main tip here with this relationship pillar with your mind and emotions is just to not ruin the relationship with your mind and emotions. This is not an excuse. Getting out of the comfort zone is not an excuse to be mean to yourself, to be unkind to yourself, to catastrophize the way you react to things, but instead to say, you know what, this is a chance to go deeper. This is a chance to understand myself better. This is a chance to understand my fear response and my discomfort response better, and to see what that shows me about myself and my relationship to power and how I show up in places, how I take up space or don't take up space. And maybe this is a great opportunity for me to shift from a negative mindset of expecting the worst to a positive mindset of always expecting that good and amazing things will come my way, that the best possible outcome will always be mine. Tip number 3, connect with why you're doing it. So the third pillar is your spirit pillar. In the third pillar, we talk about meaning, purpose, creativity. why we do what we do, what brings us energy, what lights us up, what makes it worth living. A lot of us might be asking, why are we living? Why are we living through these dark times? Like, everything is so challenging. Like, why do we keep going? Why do we keep showing up and trying these things? When we're taking on a growth activity, or we're stepping outside of our comfort zone and we're trying to achieve something, there's usually a why. Like, I want this, or this outcome, or I think this, or this will happen to me if I put myself out there and I try it. So be really clear on what your why is. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you pushing yourself this way? Why are you going for this big ambitious dream? Or why are you going for this job or this promotion? Or why are you trying this new thing? What is your why? Connect with that and keep that in the front of your mind. So, for example, returning to my fear of public speaking, I do it because I know that sharing my story about my mother's murder, sharing the difficult things that I have moved through, that I have survived, will be of value and use to other people. If I can make someone else's life easier, that someone else does not have to go through or suffer what I did, if I could take 10 years of suffering and squish it down to 6 months for somebody else, that's a big why for me. There was a keynote presentation that I gave last year, and at the end of my keynotes, I always ask for people to submit comments or reviews. There's like a little QR code that I put up on a slide while I'm telling my final story, and they can fill in their comments. So in one of these feedback forms, this girl told me that she was really having a hard time. She was feeling really hopeless. She was really struggling to get through her graduate school program, and she didn't have really high hopes for kind of her job prospects afterwards. And she's like, and your talk made me feel like there was light at the end of the tunnel. And I took that comment to heart. Have a why like that. That is incredibly motivating to me. That's incredibly inspirational to think that I can be the person to uplift other people, that I could be the person to help them feel like they have the strength, they have the power to go on. And so that is so much bigger than any fear or discomfort that I might be feeling. And so I encourage you to figure out what your why is as well, and then put that center of your focus when you're doing these difficult, out of the comfort zone activities, or you're going for these certain goals and it requires you to do these challenging things. Know why you're doing it and keep that why at the forefront of your mind, and so that it can be a bigger, more empowering force than whatever fear or doubt that you're experiencing concurrently. Tip number 4. So our fourth pillar is connection, your relationship with connection. In this particular context with getting out of our comfort zone, I think it's a great idea to have an accountability buddy, or have someone that you share these challenges with. So for example, when I was getting into speaking, I had an accountability group with a few other speakers, women who were breaking into the industry as well, who were doing this. They were trying to add the speaking aspect as a component of the businesses that they were running. And we would meet up every week, and we still do, and we would talk about the things that we're doing, and we would encourage each other. And so having that person that you can talk to about this hard stuff that you're doing, that you can talk to about these big chances that you're taking, having someone to encourage you and say, yeah, you can do it, absolutely, go for it. The person who believes in you, that believes that you can do this thing. It feels big and scary to you, but for them, they're like, no, you're amazing, absolutely, you've got this. If you can find yourself a cheerleader would be an incredible asset to have on this journey. And so I definitely encourage you, in the relationship with your connection, being encouraged and empowered by other people, to get somebody to cheerlead you, either as an accountability person who keeps you on track, who encourages you to keep showing up and doing the hard thing even when you start getting nervous and scared, but then also someone to make you feel more confident, someone who kind of lends their energy and their enthusiasm to the situation when you yourself are not sure. You're like, I don't know about this, man. Somebody who can bolster you up, because these ladies that were in this group with me, they were way more confident in my ability to get up there and speak and share my story than I was for myself. And so having them cheerlead me, encourage me, that was really amazing. And that was a wonderful experience and byproduct of this journey for me. So I definitely encourage you to find people who can bolster you, who can make you feel like, yeah, actually, you know what, maybe I can do this, and maybe it'll be totally easy and I should go for it anyway. So having those cheerleaders in your ear. And there's something to be said about having people in your corner, especially when you're doing really challenging, difficult things. Think about when we were little kids and we would have a play or a recital or something, and you had to get up on stage, and or even if you don't have a personal memory of this, we've all seen the videos on social media where the little kid is there on stage and they're searching the crowd for their people, right? They're looking for mom or dad, they're looking for the grandparents. And when they see them in the audience, like their whole face lights up. You know, they have all the confidence and encouragement now to do the thing that they were just nervous about doing 5 seconds before. That's what I'm talking about when I say find you a person to bolster you up. Find you someone either in a personal or professional context. Because again, if you're someone like me who didn't have a lot of personal connections, maybe when you were starting to do difficult things, maybe getting out of your comfort zone is finding your people. Maybe right now you're very alone and very isolated. You can find someone in a professional capacity to be your cheerleader. Whether that's a therapist or that's an accountability partner in like a professional group, whatever it is, you can find somebody to be there for you in this aspect of your journey. And so having that person in the audience, having that person who believes in you, who cheers you on, can make such a difference in your ability to gain confidence, to keep doing the hard, out of the comfort zone things and be like proud about it. Like, oh, look at me, did you see what I did? And they're like, yes, that was amazing. And so it can be really bolstering. It can feel really good to have that person in your corner. So the 5th tip that I have for you, it's not tied to a pillar because we've already touched our 4 pillars, but it's still an important tip, which is when you're getting out of your comfort zone, be bold, but be patient. Now, what does that mean? Bold means be brave enough to do the thing that you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this. So you're bold, so you're taking the risk, you're putting yourself out there, you're getting out of the comfort zone, but you're being patient. And the reason why you need to be patient is for 2 reasons. One, because getting out of your comfort zone is a growth space, and growth can be very slow. So you may not see immediately the results of your efforts. So the first time I ever got on the stage, I had no idea if I did a good job. I didn't know if my stories were landing. I didn't know if I was going to get the results I was hoping for. You can't see it right away. Or if you start a new workout program, for example, you work out for several weeks or several months and you're not really sure if things are changing. Like you think you feel a little bit different in your body, but you're not really sure. You have to be really patient with these things. Anything that pertains to growth, you always have to give yourself more time to wait to see the result of your efforts than you think you do. Like I always think that I'm going to see the results tomorrow because I can be a very impatient person. But I have found that when it comes to getting out of my comfort zone and growing, I always see the results in hindsight. So suddenly I just wake up and I'm like, oh wow, I'm really good at this. Or suddenly I wake up and I'm like, oh, I really am completely changed in this aspect. But you don't see it until quite a bit of time has passed. I had the same kind of revelation experience when I was studying languages. Like I've been studying French like for 10 years. And then there was just at least 8 of those where I'm like, oh my gosh, my French is so bad. I'm so bad at this. I can't string anything together. I can't string a whole sentence together. And then suddenly I'm in France and I'm having a whole conversation with a complete stranger. And I'm like, oh wow, I must have really learned something at some point. I just didn't realize it. I didn't realize it until this moment where I was in this conversation and I had to explain this to the airport gate person, right? And so you don't always know how much growth is occurring when you're in the growth space. So take big risks, put yourself out there, challenge yourself, but be really patient with the results. Don't assume that you're failing or that you're doing poorly just because you don't immediately identify what's happening. Like you don't immediately see what you want to see, or you don't immediately get the results that you want to get. And those are my 5 tips for having a great relationship with yourself, even when you're in this challenging space of getting out of your comfort zone. With the body, think about what your body needs. Fear is a natural response. Accommodate the body. Speak kindly to the body. Be like, yeah, this is terrifying, but we're going to do it, and I'm going to give you whatever you need to keep moving forward. So being kind to your body while you're doing it. Second, mind and emotions. This is an invitation to know yourself better, to figure out what triggers you, what makes you feel strong, understand your backstory a little bit better, slow down those thoughts, and an opportunity to train yourself to not look for the negative, but to look for the positive. Connecting with your why, that spirit pillar. Having your reason for getting out of the comfort zone first and foremost in the front of your mind when you're doing the hard work will help keep you centered, will help keep you going, will help keep you connected to why it's worth doing these horrible, challenging things. And so it'll allow you to stay in that space longer and set you up for a bigger chance of getting the results that you want because you stick with it, you persevere. Fourth is that connection. Have a cheerleader or have an accountability buddy, somebody who can make you feel more confident in yourself, who can pump you up, who can get you excited about doing it before you're able to muster those positive self-loving feelings about yourself. And then fifth, be bold, but be patient. Keep taking those risks, keep putting yourself out there, keep doing what you want to do, trying to get the results that you want to do, but be patient. Don't expect it to happen overnight. Don't beat yourself up. This is not an invitation to beat yourself up if you don't see the results immediately. And if you use those 5 tips when you're out of your comfort zone and you're trying to get to that next goal, or you're trying to push yourself to grow in that way, I absolutely am certain that you're going to see the results that you want. And that's it for today, dear human. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm going to have a little bit of an after show for the patrons, so if you want to come join us over on Patreon, you can do that. Otherwise, I will be back next week. I have a great interview lined up for you guys. I hope you're super excited about it. And until then, please take good care of you. This episode of A Well Cared For Human was written and produced by me, Kory Marie. The music was by Late Night Feeler and Esther Abrami. If you like what I'm doing here, please consider visiting my Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get early ad-free access to the episodes, as well as a monthly patrons-only Q&A, bonus videos, and more. Not to mention that your Patreon support lets me know that you find value in the show and want it to continue. You can find me on Patreon by visiting www.patreon.com/Kory Marie. If you can't support the show financially, that is okay. You can still subscribe to the show, leave a review of the show, and recommend the show to your friends, not just the neurotic ones. All of this helps so much. And as always, thank you for listening.